Welcome back to another video. Tonight we are diving into the most unsettling corners of Reddit to bring you horror stories that most people would rather forget. The kind that lingers in your mind all through the night. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a story. Now let's get into it. My housemate is dead, but everyone is pretending she's not. Has anyone ever been in a situation like this before? So anyway, it all started last week. I live with 4 roommates. Jez, Lily, Dane, and Miguel. Lily is the one who I'm pretty sure is dead, even though my housemates all say she's pretending. And at first I did think she was pretending. It's an old trick of hers. She's super introverted. And sometimes if she's overwhelmed or just doesn't want to talk, she'll pretend to be asleep. We call it her playing possum. But now she's been playing possum for nearly a week. Her eyes are open, her face is this grayish white and has been turning kind of purplish. Her body is bloating and I saw a fly land on her eyeball and I think it laid eggs there. She hasn't changed out of her panda onesie since she started playing possum last Monday. She smells like a corpse smells, like rotting meat. And that panda onesie, that panda suit is so gross. I'm pretty sure she died in it last Monday and everyone is just in some kind of denial. But does that even make sense? I mean, how is it 3 other people are all saying she's alive and that I'm delusional? Is it just some bizarre social experiment? I keep waiting for some reality TV host to pop out from behind the potted plant and a hidden audience to start laughing or clapping. I feel like I'm coming unglued from reality. I'm sitting on the sofa as I write this, by the way. Sitting here, looking across the TV room at Lily, who is propped up in the same chair she died in, eyes wide open, flesh bloated and lips purplish and skin just... I think she's going to start leaking into that chair. But let me rewind us to last Sunday. Sunday is when we hit the old lady's cat. It wasn't on purpose. We'd all had a bit too much to drink and I was driving and Dane was in the passenger seat and Jess and Miguel and Lily were in the back and the cat, it just freaking raced out into the road, solid black, and then there was a thump. My stomach flipped. And then this old woman came out of her house and saw her cat had been hit and screamed and screamed. Lily told her she should have kept her cat inside, not let it wander near a busy road. Anyway, long story short, I think that lady was a witch and hexed us for killing her cat. More specifically, I think she hexed Lily. I know, because the woman said some words in a strange language, and we all called her crazy and drove home. So that was Sunday night. Come Monday when I came out for breakfast, I was up early, as usual. The only other person out in her chair in the living room was Lily, bundled up in her panda onesie. I said good morning, but she had a 1,000-yard stare. I figured she just wanted to be left alone and didn't think anything more of it until I got home from work in the afternoon. Lily was still in the chair, same exact pose, still in her panda onesie. I asked if she was all right. Miguel was playing a video game and he answered for her, said Lily was sick and had stayed home from classes. I hope you feel better, I told Lily. She didn't respond. Lily, I said. She didn't respond. Hey, Lily, I said that I hope... Chill, just leave her alone, snapped Miguel, who seemed annoyed because I was interrupting his game. I thought it was weird, but I let it go because he was acting so normal. But at dinner, she was still in her chair in the same pose and hadn't moved. I tried talking to Jess, who told me, she'll be fine, it's just a cold. This behavior went on for days, and just anytime I tried to ask any of my roommates if Lily was okay, they would act like I was the crazy one. I tried to point out she hadn't changed out of her onesie and was told to quit being an asshole. She's sick, let her be. At one point I was staring at her from the sofa trying to catch her blinking, and Jess yelled at me and told me to stop being such a creep, that I was weirding Lily out. They even put up a big cushion in front of her to block her from having to see me, which she clearly couldn't because she was by this point 3 days dead. I assumed once the rotting set in that they would notice, but they just pretended all the harder. And in fact, they even started staging her body. Like, I know it sounds really weird. I don't know why they did it or if it's some sick social experiment or what, but they moved her. I found her at the table one morning. She was slumped backwards over her chair, sightless eyes staring up at the ceiling. Everyone talked to her like she was alive. By this point, she also stank. I mean, to the point I even noticed Miguel and Dane kind of surreptitiously keeping their distance and breathing through their mouths, not their noses, around her. I tried to talk about this to them later, but Miguel just wrinkled his nose at me and said, "Yeah, I know, it's gross, but she's super depressed. Jess says she's never seen Lily this bad before. She's mad upset about that cat. Just let her be. We gotta let her work through this. She'll come out of it. Until then, things like showering and getting out of bed are really hard for her." I almost told him yes, those things would be hard for a dead person to do. But I didn't. Honestly, I didn't know how to respond. I finally managed to say, "Dude, I think she's rotting in that panda suit." He chuckled and shook his head and said, "Come on, don't be an asshole." I finally did what I should have done from the beginning and called the police. I said I wanted a wellness check on Lily. My roommates tried to send them away, but I came downstairs and insisted and pointed to the corpse in the panda costume in the chair by the television. That chair was really gross by now, and the cops went over to examine her, and I really believed, really and truly, that we were all about to be arrested for having a dead girl rotting in our living room, congealing into that chair. But they pretended she was alive, the same as my roommates kept doing. She never spoke a word in answer to them, never moved. Later, Jess took me aside and told me my actions were uncalled for, and that all I did was make things worse for Lily. So now I'm not sure what to do. Update. It's been several more days since I wrote the above stuff, and as you can imagine, her body became severely decomposed. Also, I confronted my roommates. We got into a huge fight. I told them that clearly the witch's hex had done something to Lily, that it was blinding them, and we were all living with a dead girl. They looked shaken after I pointed out the smell, the way Lily wasn't eating, was literally rotting. They told me they thought I was seeing things, but the entire house reeked of death. None of us could stand it. We could all smell it. I heard Miguel and Dane whisper about the smell later, but they clamped up at a death glare from Jez. So I finally decided to take action. Last night, I bundled up the corpse in the panda suit and drove it out to the woods. There's these high bluffs out there. I tossed the corpse down the rocks. The animals out there will pick it to pieces, if it isn't already too rotted for them to eat. I came back home and also cleaned up around the house and put that disgusting chair out on the curb and finally went to bed. In the morning, I woke up to find Jess having a panic attack. She demanded to know where Lily was. I told her Lily left and Jess accused me of lying. Miguel seemed relieved though. While Jess went out in her car to go searching for Lily, Miguel told me he could finally breathe again and that it really had smelled bad in here and someone needed to do something. He said he hoped Lily got the help she needed, but that this wasn't the right place for her and she probably needed inpatient treatment. I refrained from telling him that I thought it was way too late for a hospital. Anyway, her body being gone should be a good thing, except I think the hex is now hitting the rest of us. Because Dane, he's always a late sleeper. He didn't wake up through Jess's freakout or my conversation with Miguel. But now it's afternoon and I just came out and found him sitting next to Miguel on the sofa playing video games. Only, he's not actually playing. His eyes stare straight ahead of him. His hands don't move. There's a first-person shooter on the screen and Miguel keeps telling Dane he needs to step up his game. But Dane is literally doing nothing. Seeing nothing. I think he's like Lily was last Monday. Like the hex hit him and now he's dead, but nobody can see it. I don't know if I should wait for his body to rot or if I should just take him out to the bluffs sooner. If this plays out the same way, Miguel won't stop pretending Dane is just fine. Jess will come home and also believe that he's still alive. Even the police will believe it. Why am I the one the hex didn't hit? Why am I the only one who can see that they're dead? If a stranger offers to pay your dinner bill, be careful when you leave your table. I'm a server at a Midwestern diner. A few weeks ago, a customer appeared at one of the booths. I say appeared because I hadn't seen her come in, and usually I am very attentive to the sound of the doorbell. It was a pretty bustling evening though. I approached to take her order. She sat with her back to me, her curly hair pinned up in a style that reminded me of old movies. Her age was hard to determine from behind, but she looked to be in her 60s, I guess? She was sitting perfectly still, statuesque. When I came around to the front of the booth, I gasped and dropped my pen. The woman was not breathing. Lips slightly parted, skin withered and shrunken. No movement, not the faintest motion of her chest. But it was the eyes that were the giveaway she was dead. unblinking and unseeing and a little too deeply shrunken in their sockets. Oh God. I took a step back. And then the woman's head turned and she said in a raspy voice, "Just a coffee, please." Her eyes blinked. Not dead, after all. Of course, sure. Any milk or sugar? Black. I scurried to get her coffee. When I looked back, she was again motionless. When it came time for the check, she put down a $50 bill. I started to tell her I didn't have change since all she'd ordered was a coffee, but she said, "It's all right, dear. It will cover the meal for that nice family over there." Her head inclined ever so slightly to a family in the corner booth having dinner. The family in the corner were regulars, came here every Sunday with the kids. The parents were divorced. The kids lived with their dad, and their mom always picked them up on weekends. This diner was on the route between the parents' houses, and they'd meet up here to discuss the plans for the next week. They always left a tip, and the kids drew pictures for me. "Really?" I said to the old woman. "That's very nice of you." Without another word, the old woman stood up and left. The family were very pleasantly surprised when I approached and informed them that their meal had been paid for. They asked by who, and I told them the old woman from the other booth. One of the kids looked over where I'd indicated and said, "I didn't see any woman sitting there." Weird. The next time the old woman appeared was several weeks later. It was after midnight. Again, I heard no bell ring above the door. I was wiping down the counters, and when I looked up, there she was, sitting at the same booth. Like a statue. Silent. I came over to take her order. I wondered if I should ask her about the family. I hadn't seen them in the weeks since she'd paid for their meal. It was strange. They'd been coming every Sunday, and then after she paid their meal, they stopped. As I neared the booth, suddenly the woman inhaled. It struck me that until then she'd been so still I hadn't been sure if she'd been breathing at all. She turned to me and said, "Coffee, please. Black?" "Sure." Since she wasn't exactly chatty, I just went and got her coffee, trying to work up the nerve to strike up a casual conversation and ask her about the family. Before I could, the doorbell rang and Carlos came in. Carlos was a friend of my boss who liked to drop in once in a while. He ordered a burger, and we began chatting about how things were with his girlfriend and with his girlfriend's boyfriend. I can never keep track of who's in his astonishingly wide relationship circle. Apparently, he'd just adopted a dog. He showed me pictures while he ate. "Carlos, not to be mean, but that might be the world's fuggliest dog," I told him. He laughed. "Nobody wanted her, that's why I took her." "That's sweet of you, but that thing looks like it has rabies." "Scabies." "What?" "I'm kidding, she's got mange though." He started to tell me about how he'd rescued her when I heard a throat clear and remembered the woman at the booth. Shoot, I'd forgotten her order. I hurried to get her coffee, and as I set it down, asked if she wanted anything else, and she put a 20 down and said it was for that nice young man's burger. She didn't even drink the coffee I gave her. She got up and left, ignoring me when I started to ask, "Are you sure? Why do you keep paying for—" "Hey," called Carlos. "Who are you talking to?" "The woman." I turned back, but she was already gone. "What woman? It's just you and me. You okay? Are you high or something?" I looked at the money in my hand. It was real enough. "Burgers on the house," I told him. "For real? Thanks." He scarfed the last bite, hopped up, and told me he was late. No idea what sort of date he was off to at 1 a.m., but that's Carlos. And then he was breezing out the door. The next day, I heard he'd been shot. My boss told me. We were chatting about the boss's dog, and I mentioned Carlos's mangy rescue dog, and he suddenly got serious and informed me that last night, Carlos had been jumped on his way to a bar. He'd tried to fight off the muggers, but one of them had a gun. "They shot him in the head," he said grimly. "Jesus," I said. My boss told me Carlos had been rushed to the hospital, but he was hanging by a threat, almost certain to die. Or if he survived, he'd be a vegetable. I was shaken, deeply, deeply shaken. Poor Carlos, his poor girlfriend, his poor mangy dog. And a thought intruded. Was it because of the old woman? What about the family that used to come in Sundays but had disappeared? Had misfortune struck them too? I resolved that the next time I saw the old woman, I would ask her what she was doing. I wouldn't let her pay for the next customer. The old woman returned just this afternoon. There were only a handful of customers, as it was between the lunch and dinner hour. As always, I didn't hear her come in. One moment I was busy bezzing dishes, the next I spotted her at the booth. I straightened up and approached her. Her sunken eyes turned to me. I could never get over the feeling I was looking at death itself. Then she gave that sudden inhalation, like she was remembering to breathe, and she said, "Coffee, black." And I was surprised at the "and." "A root beer float," she added. I just pressed my lips together, nodded, and went to get the drinks. Surveyed the room. There were 3 other tables with customers. An old couple, a family with a teenage daughter, a woman working on her laptop. And even though I should have gotten the old woman her drinks right away, I instead made sure to get everyone else's orders to their tables and to get their bills to them. The couple paid, as did the woman on her laptop. That left only the family. They were still eating. I fetched the coffee and the float for the old woman, but mentally resolved not to let her pay for anybody. She did not react to my placing the drinks beside her. I was tense, counting the minutes until the family was near to finishing. The old woman cleared her throat. Ignoring her, I hurried over to the family and asked if they wanted dessert. They didn't, so I asked how they'd like to pay and quickly rang them up. Only then did I return to the old woman's booth. She had not touched either drink. She put a $10 bill on the table and said, "The root beer float is for you." "Oh," I said, and goosebumps rose along my arms because how did she know that root beer floats are my favorite? "No, I can't have customers buy me drinks. It's against policy." "I insist," she said. "I'll bring you change for the coffee." She got up. "Actually, wait. Here, I'll pay for everything." I quickly reached into my pocket for my wallet and dropped $10 onto the table. "I'll get your coffee too. On the house, since I took so long with your order." She frowned. "Accept the gift that is given to you." "Nope. I can pay for the root beer float even though I didn't drink it. And your coffee is free." And I took her $10 and, holding my breath, seized her papery hand and shoved the bill into her fingers. She exhaled and left. I didn't turn around as she walked past me, didn't hear the doorbell ring. But a moment later, when I looked over my shoulder, there was no trace of the old woman. A feeling of relief swept over me. A little while later, the dinner hour had arrived and the tables were full. I heard the doorbell ring and it was them, my family of regulars. Today's not a Sunday and I hadn't seen them in so long, so I was very surprised. I cleaned up their usual booth and got them seated, and when I came over to take their order, I exclaimed about how I'd missed seeing them. "Oh yeah, it was pretty crazy," said the dad. "After we left, last time we drove together, and I don't know if you remember how hard it was raining, but the car skidded and we lost control." "You lost control," corrected the mom. "Yes, I lost control because it was the minivan that I told you not to get because those things flip way too easily. And it did. It rolled. I mean, it spun out right in the middle of the highway and then flipped over the guardrail and rolled." "I swear my soul left my body," said one of the kids. "It was very harrowing. We just couldn't come back here for a while," said the mom. "Were you hurt?" I asked, stunned. "Just minor injuries. The police said it was really just miraculous how we all came out of it alive." The mom smiled. I nodded, glad for them, relieved to have my regulars back again. They said they couldn't bring themselves to come for a while because of the accident, but the kids kept asking, so tonight they decided to meet here for dinner. After I put in their order, I called my boss to let him know, because he'd been worried about them too. He sounded delighted on the phone and told me he had some good news of his own. "Carlos is gonna pull through. He's awake from the coma and he's now on the road to recovery." "That's great," I said, even as at that moment something clicked. I typed all this up instead of leaving at the end of my shift tonight. I've been thinking about the old woman, how she looked. Well, like death. Or maybe more like near death. I keep thinking about how Carlos took a bullet to the brain, how the family of regulars were in a horrific accident, how all of them should have been dead, but they survived by a miracle. And I think I may have made a terrible mistake. So now I'm terrified to leave the diner, terrified because I didn't let her pay for my drink. I just don't want to know what happens next.